The night wind moved slowly across the savannah, carrying the smell of dust, dry grass, and distant rain. In the village of Endamb, firelight danced on mud walls, and drums beat softly somewhere beyond the riverbank. It was a night like many others, yet the ancestors were already awake, watching closely. Her name was Amara. She walked with lowered eyes, her bare feet touching the cool earth, her back straight even though her heart was breaking. The village path was narrow, lined with old baobab trees whose roots twisted like sleeping snakes. Elders often said those trees remembered everything. Tonight, they remembered her pain. Amara was known in Endamb as a quiet woman. She spoke little, listened much, and carried her burdens without noise. She had married Kato, a respected hunter, 3 seasons earlier. At first, the village praised their union. Kato was strong and fearless. Amara was gentle and hardworking. People said the ancestors had blessed them. But blessings can turn into tests. Inside Kato's compound, a fire burned bright. Meat roasted on iron stands. Clay pots simmered with soup. The smell of spices filled the air. Kato was hosting elders and hunters that night. It was meant to be a night of honor for him. Amara had cooked since dawn. Her hands were sore, her back ached. Still, she moved quietly, adding herbs, tasting carefully, whispering a short prayer before each pot. Her grandmother had taught her that food carried spirit. What you felt while cooking entered the meal. And tonight, her heart was full of pain. Kato sat on a carved wooden stool, laughing loudly with the men. His voice was sharp with pride. He spoke of his hunts, his strength, his name spreading beyond the hills. Each word pushed Amara deeper into the shadows. When she brought a bowl of water for the guests to wash their hands, Kato did not look at her. When she placed the first dish before him, he frowned. "What is this?" he snapped. Amara froze. "It is goat stew, my husband," she said softly, "with ground seeds and—" Before she finished, Kato stood. The fire cracked loudly, as if warning them. Kato raised his hand and slapped her. The sound echoed across the compound. Birds flew from the trees, the drums stopped in the distance. Amara fell to the ground, the bowl shattering beside her. Hot soup burned her skin. Pain rushed through her face, but worse was the silence. All eyes were on her. "Useless woman," Kato shouted. "You embarrass me before my guests. You cook like a child, you walk like a ghost. What did I gain marrying you?" Laughter followed, not all laughed, but no one spoke. Amara felt the earth beneath her palms. She wanted to disappear into it. Her ears rang. Her cheek burned, but she did not cry. Tears would give him more power. She stood slowly. "I will fix it," she said. Kato laughed louder. "Fix your shame, go." She walked away, her steps steady though her heart was shaking. The women watching from nearby huts lowered their heads. They had seen this before. They knew this silence. Amara entered the small cooking hut behind the compound. Darkness wrapped around her. Only a small oil lamp burned. She touched her cheek and felt blood. That was when she heard it. A whisper. Soft, old, like dry leaves brushing stone. "Child of the river." Amara turned sharply. No one was there. She closed her eyes. Grief can make the mind weak, she thought. Then the whisper came again. "Child of the river, why do you suffer in silence?" Her breath caught. Only one being ever called her that. Her grandmother. But her grandmother had returned to the ancestors many seasons ago. Amara knelt, her body trembling. "Grandmother," she whispered. The lamp flame bent sideways though there was no wind. "You remember what I taught you," the voice said. "Food is never just food." Amara swallowed hard. Her grandmother had been a woman of deep knowledge. People said she spoke to the forest, to the river, to spirits unseen. When she died, the village elders buried her with respect and fear. "I am tired," Amara said. "I am tired of pain." Outside, Kato's laughter grew louder. "Then cook with truth," the voice replied. "Cook with memory, cook with justice." Amara's hands shook as she stood. She looked at the ingredients before her. Cassava flour, bitter roots, red oil, herbs forbidden for joy meals, herbs used only in rituals. Her heart pounded. "This is not revenge," the voice warned. "It is a mirror." Amara remembered the old stories, meals that revealed truth, dinners that awakened sleeping spirits. She had sworn never to walk that path. But tonight, something inside her broke open. She began to cook again. Not with anger, not with hatred. With memory. She washed her hands in silence. She ground the roots slowly. She whispered the names of women before her who had suffered quietly. The oil glowed darker than before. The pot simmered with a strange sound like distant drums. Outside, the men grew impatient. Is she dead back there? One hunter joked. Kato laughed. Let her hurry, hunger waits for no woman. Amara lifted the pot. It felt heavier than it should. The air around it shimmered. When she stepped back into the firelight, conversations stopped. The smell was rich, deep, unfamiliar. She served the guests calmly, placing bowls before each man. Last, she placed one before Kato. He smirked. Now this looks better. Amara did not respond. She stepped back and stood near the shadows. The first elder tasted the food. His hand froze. Another hunter swallowed and coughed. Kato took a large bite. His smile faded. The drums began again in the distance, beating fast now, wild and uneven. The elder's eyes widened. What is this taste? Kato's face grew pale, sweat formed on his forehead. Amara watched silently. The fire flickered violently. Somewhere beyond the trees, something ancient shifted in its sleep. And the ancestors leaned closer. The first elder pushed his bowl away. The sound of clay scraping earth was loud in the silence. Firelight jumped across the men's faces, showing fear where pride once lived. The drums outside the compound did not stop. They grew louder, faster, like a warning heartbeat. Kato swallowed again, his throat working hard. His tongue burned, yet the food was cold in his mouth. He stared at the bowl as if it had grown eyes. What did you put in this? He demanded. Amara stood still near the shadows. Her hands were folded before her. Her face showed no anger, no joy, only calm. It is food, she said. The same hands cooked it as before. One hunter laughed nervously. You joke, woman. This taste, it wakes old memories. The elder who first tasted it began to shake. His eyes filled with tears. He pressed his palm against his chest. I hear my mother's voice, he whispered. She calls me from the river. The men murmured in fear. Some stood up. One tried to spit the food out, but his mouth locked tight. His jaw would not open. Kato pushed himself to his feet, anger fighting fear inside him. Stop this nonsense, he shouted. You shame my house with your tricks. He raised his hand again, but this time it froze in the air. The wind rushed through the compound. Fire bent low. Sparks flew upward like glowing insects. The baobab trees creaked loudly, their branches twisting as if alive. Amara felt the ground vibrate beneath her feet. The whisper returned, louder now, carried on the wind. Let them see. Kato's hand dropped, his breath came fast. His eyes rolled back and suddenly he screamed. Not a shout of anger. A scream of terror. He fell to his knees, clutching his head. I see them, he cried. They stand behind you. The guests turned in panic, but nothing stood there. Only darkness and trees. Still, fear wrapped around them like a net. One hunter ran for the gate. He reached it, but the wooden door slammed shut on its own. He beat on it, shouting, but his voice sounded far away, like it came from underwater. The elder fell forward, bowing to the ground. Ancestors, he begged, forgive me. Amara's heart pounded. She did not plan this. She only followed the old voice, yet now the night itself obeyed. Kato crawled toward her, tears streaming down his face. Make it stop, he pleaded. I command you. Amara looked down at him. She remembered the slap, the laughter, the silence of the village. She remembered every night she swallowed her pain. I do not command spirits, she said softly. I only cooked. The drums stopped suddenly. The silence was worse. From the edge of the firelight a shape moved. Smoke gathered, thick and slow, twisting into a tall figure. Its face was hidden, but its presence pressed heavy on every chest. No one breathed. The spirit raised an unseen hand, and a voice like rolling thunder filled the compound. This house is loud with pride, it said, and empty of respect. Men cried out, some covered their faces. Others collapsed. Kato shook violently. Forgive me, he sobbed, I did not know. The spirit turned toward Amara. You knew, it said, and still you waited. Amara fell to her knees. I waited because I was afraid, she said. I waited because women are taught to endure. The spirit's presence softened. Endurance without dignity becomes a chain, it replied. Tonight the chain breaks. The fire flared high, then settled. The spirit faded into smoke, then into nothing. The door creaked open on its own. The men scrambled out, stumbling, crying, calling on their ancestors. They ran into the night, leaving bowls untouched, food cooling under the stars. Only Kato remained. He lay on the ground, weak and broken. His pride lay shattered beside him. Amara stood slowly. The night felt different now, lighter, but danger still breathed nearby. From beyond the compound voices rose, villagers had gathered. Fear spread faster than fire. Whispers of witchcraft, of curses, of forbidden power moved through the dark. She has called spirits, someone said. She has poisoned the men, another whispered. Torches appeared along the paths. Elders approached, faces hard with suspicion. The head elder Mzee Baraka stepped forward. His hair was white as ash, his eyes missed nothing. Amara, he said, what have you done in this house? Kato lifted his head weakly. She is dangerous, he croaked. She used spirit food. Amara felt the weight of every stare. In Endamb, fear often turned into judgment. I cooked, she said again, nothing more. Mzee Baraka studied the bowls, the fire, the shaking ground. He felt it too. The air still carried power. This matter is not finished, he said. At sunrise you will stand before the council. The villagers murmured. Some women looked at Amara with secret hope. Others stepped away in fear. As the crowd dispersed, Amara returned to the cooking hut. Her body finally trembled. She sank onto the earth floor. The whisper came once more. You have stepped onto an old path, it said. You cannot turn back now. Amara closed her eyes. Outside, the moon climbed higher. And deep beneath the roots of the baobab trees, ancient spirits stirred, ready to speak again. The sun rose slowly over Endamb village, but its light did not bring peace. Mist hung low over the huts. The river moved without sound. Even the birds were quiet, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Word of the night before had spread like wildfire. By morning, every corner of the village whispered Amara's name. Some called her cursed. Some called her chosen. Most were afraid. Amara washed her face at the riverbank before dawn. The cold water cleared the last traces of blood from her cheek. She looked at her reflection in the moving water and barely recognized the woman staring back. She no longer looked small. Behind her, old women gathered, pretending to collect water but truly watching. None spoke to her. Silence followed her like a shadow. When the sun reached the top of the tallest palm tree, the drum of judgment sounded. Booms, booms, boom. It came from the council ground, a wide circle beneath the oldest baobab tree in the village. That tree had watched generations rise and fall. Its roots were said to reach the world of the ancestors. Amara walked there alone. Kato was already seated among the men, wrapped in a dark cloth. His eyes were hollow. The pride that once filled him had drained away. He would not look at her. The elders sat in a circle, staffs resting across their knees. Mzee Baraka sat at the center. Beside him sat Mama Njeri, the oldest woman in the village, her back bent but her eyes sharp like a hawk's. The crowd gathered at a distance. Children were pulled back by their mothers. No one wanted spirits to choose them by mistake. Mzee Baraka struck his staff against the ground. Let the truth walk forward, he said. Amara stepped into the circle. What happened last night broke the peace of Endamb, the elder continued. Men saw visions, spirits spoke, fear entered our homes. He turned to Amara. Speak. Amara breathed deeply. I cooked food, she said, food made with old knowledge, knowledge taught to me by my grandmother. A ripple moved through the crowd. Her grandmother's name was not spoken often. Even in death it carried weight. Mama Njeri leaned forward. Your grandmother walked between worlds, she said slowly. Why did you open that door again? Amara's voice shook, but she did not stop. Because I was broken, she said. Because I was struck and shamed before all, because silence was killing me. Murmurs rose. Kato suddenly stood. She lies, he shouted. She planned to shame me, she used witchcraft. Mzee Baraka raised his hand. Sit. Kato hesitated, then fell back onto his stool. Mama Njeri studied Amara's face for a long time. Child, she said, did the spirits come because you called them or because they were already watching? Amara closed her eyes. I think, she said, they were waiting. The ground beneath the baobab tree creaked. A low sound rolled through the earth like distant thunder. Dust fell from the tree branches, the elders gripped their staffs. Mzee Baraka's face changed. The ancestors wish to speak, he said. Fear rushed through the crowd, some villagers ran, others dropped to their knees. The wind circled the council ground, leaves spun upward, the air grew heavy, thick like smoke. From the base of the baobab tree, a crack opened in the earth. Gasps filled the air. A voice rose from the opening, deep and old, carrying the sound of many voices together. We have watched, the ancestors said, we have waited. Amara's knees weakened, but she remained standing. We watched this woman carry pain without sound, the voice continued. We watched this man use strength without honor. Kato screamed, no. Visions burst into the air above the circle. The villagers saw Amara's past as if it were happening before them. They saw her working in silence. They saw insults thrown like stones. They saw nights of tears swallowed into the earth. They also saw Kato laughing with other men, boasting, taking credit for work done by others, hiding weakness behind cruelty. Women cried out, men lowered their heads. This is the truth buried beneath pride, the ancestors said. The visions changed. Now they showed Amara's grandmother as a young woman, standing where Amara stood now. She too had been beaten. She too had chosen silence until silence nearly destroyed her. She passed the knowledge so it would not die, the voice said, not for revenge, for balance. The crack in the earth closed slowly. The wind stopped. Silence returned, thick and heavy. Mzee Baraka stood with effort, his hands shook. The ancestors have spoken, he said. This matter is no longer small. He turned to Kato. You broke the law of respect, he said. You dishonored your house. Kato fell forward, pressing his forehead to the ground. I am sorry, he whispered. I did not know they watched so closely. Mama Njeri struck her staff against the earth. They always watch, she said. She turned to Amara. But child, she continued, power is a river. If you step too deep it will carry you away. Amara nodded slowly. I understand. Mzee Baraka spoke again. For now, Amara will leave the compound of her husband, he said. She will stay near the old forest until the spirits decide her path. A sharp breath escaped the women in the crowd. The old forest was feared. Spirits walked openly there. Kato lifted his head. No, he cried, she belongs to my house. The ground trembled lightly. She belongs to herself, Mama Njeri said firmly. The decision was final. As the crowd dispersed, Amara felt fear and relief twist together inside her. She gathered her few belongings and walked toward the forest edge. The trees there were tall and dark. The air smelled of damp earth and old leaves. The deeper she walked, the quieter the world became. As night fell, she reached a small clearing. A fire pit stood there, old and unused. She lit a small flame. From the darkness, eyes watched her. Then a figure stepped forward. An old woman wrapped in bark cloth, her face marked with sacred scars. You have come at last, the woman said. Amara's heart stopped. Who are you? She whispered. The woman smiled gently. I am what your grandmother became, she replied, and what you may yet become. The fire crackled loudly. Amara realized then that the turning point had passed. There was no return to the life she once knew. And the true test had only just begun. The forest did not sleep. At night it breathed. Leaves whispered to one another. Insects sang in long, steady rhythms. Somewhere far away, a drum beat slowly, though no human hand touched it. Firelight danced across twisted tree trunks, and shadows moved even when nothing passed. Amara sat close to the fire, her knees pulled to her chest. The old woman watched her silently from across the flames. The scars on the woman's face glowed faintly, as if lit from within. You are afraid, the old woman said. Yes, Amara replied, but I am also tired of running. The old woman nodded. Fear means the door is open. She reached into a woven bag and pulled out dried roots and white ash. She sprinkled them into the fire. The flames turned blue for a moment, then settled. My name was Nyala, the woman said. Before I crossed fully to the other side, your grandmother walked this path with me. Amara's chest tightened. Then she is truly gone. Nyala shook her head. No one who walks between worlds is ever truly gone. A sudden cry echoed through the forest. Not an animal, not a bird, it sounded like grief. Amara flinched. The forest tests those who enter it, Nyala said. It shows them what they fear to see. As the night deepened, shapes formed between the trees. Faces appeared in the bark. Voices whispered Amara's name. She saw women she did not recognize, their eyes full of pain. Who are they? Amara asked. They are the forgotten, Nyala replied. Women who endured until they disappeared. Amara's breath shook. Is this my future? It will be, Nyala said, if you refuse your voice. Before Amara could answer, a branch snapped nearby. Torches flickered through the trees. Villagers. At their front stood Kato. His face was hard again, pride struggling to rise from its wounds. You cannot hide here, he shouted. You belong to me. Fear rushed through Amara, but something else rose with it. Strength. Nyala stood, her presence suddenly larger than the fire itself. This forest is older than your anger, she said. Step back. Kato laughed nervously. Old woman, move aside. The ground shook. Roots burst from the earth, wrapping around Kato's ankles. He fell, shouting. The villagers screamed and dropped their torches. Nyala raised her hand. Leave, she commanded. The roots released him. The villagers ran, dragging Kato with them. Silence returned. Amara stared in shock. You could have killed him. Nyala's eyes softened. Power without mercy becomes another form of cruelty. As dawn approached, Nyala began the teaching. She showed Amara how to listen to the forest, how to feel the flow of spirit in water and wind. Amara learned that her pain had sharpened her senses. But each lesson came with a cost. Visions haunted her sleep. She saw Kato calling her name in despair. She saw the village burning. She saw herself alone, feared by all. You must choose, Nyala said one night, to heal or to rule, to guide or to punish. Amara's heart ached. Why must strength be lonely? Nyala looked toward the stars, because those who change the world must walk ahead of it. One evening, Mama Njeri arrived at the forest edge. The village suffers, she said. Crops fail, children fall sick, fear spreads, they blame you. Amara felt guilt crush her chest. I did not wish this, she said. Unbalanced truth always shakes the ground, Mama Njeri replied. Only completion brings peace. Nyala nodded slowly. The circle is not yet closed. That night the ancestors returned. They spoke in dreams, calling Amara by her true name, the name given before birth. Balance must be restored, they said. The man who broke respect must face the truth fully. Amara woke trembling. What must I do? She asked. Nyala placed her hands on Amara's shoulders. You must return, she said, not as a wife, as a mirror. Thunder rolled in the distance. The path back to the village opened, glowing faintly in the dark. Amara knew then that the greatest conflict was still ahead, and that mercy would be harder than revenge. The path back to Endamb village glowed like moonlight trapped on the ground. It appeared only for Amara. The forest opened its arms and then slowly closed behind her, as if warning her that once she stepped forward, there would be no return to who she used to be. The night air felt heavy. Every step echoed with unseen footsteps walking beside her. The ancestors did not speak, but she felt them near, close enough to touch. As she reached the edge of the village, the drums began. Not the drums of celebration. The drums of fear. Booms, booms, boom. People gathered in the central square holding torches high. Shadows jumped wildly across the huts. Children cried, dogs howled. The village smelled of smoke and panic. At the center stood Kato. He was tied to a wooden post, his hands bound with rope. His once proud shoulders slumped. His face was thinner now, haunted by sleepless nights and visions he could not escape. Around him stood the elders. Mzee Baraka raised his staff. The spirits are restless, he said loudly. The crops rot in the ground, the river pulls children beneath its surface. Balance is broken. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mama Njeri stood beside him, her face grave. The ancestors demand truth, she said, and truth demands courage. Then the wind shifted. Torches flickered. A gasp moved through the crowd as Amara stepped into the firelight. She wore no ornaments, no beads, no symbols of power, only a simple cloth wrapped around her body, yet the air bent around her as if she carried the weight of the unseen. Some villagers fell to their knees. Others stepped back in fear. Kato lifted his head. Their eyes met. For the first time since the night of the slap, Kato looked away first. You return, Mzee Baraka said slowly. Do you come to curse us again? Amara shook her head. I come to end what was begun, she replied. The ground trembled slightly, the ancestors listened. Mzee Baraka nodded, then speak. Amara stepped closer to Kato. Her heart pounded but her voice remained calm. Kato, she said, look at me. He resisted at first, then slowly raised his eyes. What did you see when you ate the food? She asked. Kato swallowed, his voice shook. I saw my father, he whispered. I saw him beating my mother, I heard myself laughing like him. The crowd murmured. Amara turned to the villagers. This is not witchcraft, she said, this is memory. She faced Kato again. You struck me because you were taught that power is loud, she continued. You humiliated me because you feared your own weakness. Kato's body shook, tears streamed down his face. I was wrong, he cried, I did not know how to stop. The wind rose suddenly, swirling dust and ash into the air. The drums beat faster, harder. From the shadows beyond the huts, figures formed. The ancestors appeared. Not as bodies but as shapes of light and smoke, faces overlapping, voices speaking as one. The truth has been named, they said, now comes judgment. Fear exploded through the crowd, some screamed, others bowed low. Kato screamed in terror, forgive me. The ancestors' voices deepened. Forgiveness is not given to words, they said, it is earned through change. The rope binding Kato burned away, turning to ash. He fell forward, free but broken. You will walk the path of humility, the ancestors declared. You will serve those you once silenced, you will rebuild what your pride destroyed. Thunder cracked across the sky. Rain began to fall, sudden and heavy, soaking the earth. The dust turned to mud. The fire hissed but did not die. The ancestors turned to Amara. And you, they said, must choose. Silence swallowed the village. You carry power born of pain, the voices continued. You may stay among us or you may return to the forest and disappear into legend. Amara's chest tightened. She looked at the women in the crowd. She saw fear, she saw hope, she saw herself reflected in their eyes. If I leave, she asked softly, who will speak when they are struck? The ancestors waited. Amara took a deep breath. I will stay, she said, not as a wife, not as a servant, as a voice. The rain slowed. The spirits nodded. Then balance will return, they said. But remember, power must walk beside mercy or it becomes another chain. With that, the ancestors faded, the rain stopped, the night grew still. Kato collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Amara did not touch him. She turned to the elders. No woman will be struck in silence again, she said, not in Endamb. Mzee Baraka bowed his head. It shall be so, he said. As the villagers slowly dispersed, the air felt lighter. The drums changed rhythm, slower now, steadier. Amara stood alone in the square, her body trembling as the weight of what had passed settled into her bones. From the edge of the village, Nyala watched. She smiled once. The fire crackled softly, and the night finally exhaled. The path back to Endamb village opened before Amara like a wound that refused to close. The forest released her slowly, trees bent away as she walked, the air grew warmer, heavier. Filled with the smell of smoke and fear. In the distance, drums beat again, not for celebration but for judgment. Nyala walked beside her in silence. Do not fear what waits, Nyala said at last. Fear what happens if truth is denied. Amara nodded, though her heart shook like a trapped bird. As they reached the edge of the village, they saw it. The people had gathered around the great fire pit. Torches ringed the space. Elders stood with hard faces, warriors held spears, women clutched their children. At the center stood Kato. He was tied to a post. His head was lowered, but his shoulders were stiff with pride. He had demanded a final hearing. He had demanded Amara face him. When Amara stepped into the firelight, a roar moved through the crowd. She has returned, someone shouted. She brings spirits, another cried. Fear and anger mixed like bad medicine. Mzee Baraka raised his staff. Silence, he commanded. The drums stopped. Amara walked forward alone. Nyala remained at the shadows, unseen by most eyes. Kato, Mzee Baraka said, you demanded this moment, speak. Kato lifted his head. His eyes met Amara, and for a moment fear flickered there, then pride returned. She shamed me, he said loudly. She used forbidden power. Since that night the land has rejected us. Crops rot, children cry in sleep, she must answer. The crowd murmured. Amara stepped forward. I will answer, she said calmly. She raised her hands, palms open. I did not curse this land, she continued. The land reacts to truth, it always has. The wind rose suddenly, swirling dust around the fire. Nyala's voice echoed, though her lips did not move. Let the truth be shown, not spoken. The fire exploded upward. From the flames rose images. The village gasped. They saw Kato striking Amara, they saw nights of cruelty. They saw him mock her pain before friends. They saw elders turn away. They saw women avert their eyes. Then the images changed. They saw the ancestors withdrawing their protection. They saw the land growing dry not from magic, but from broken balance. Kato screamed. Stop it, he cried, make it stop. Amara's voice cut through the chaos. Look, she said, all of you, look. The fire showed more. It showed what would come if nothing changed. Mori violence, Mori silence, Mori women breaking quietly until nothing remained. Mama Njeri fell to her knees. We failed, she whispered. Kato struggled against his ropes. I am not the only one, he shouted. This is how it has always been. Amara stepped closer to him. That is why it must end, she said. The ropes around Kato burst into flame. The crowd screamed. But the fire did not burn him. Instead, it burned away the ropes. Kato collapsed, free but broken. The ancestor's voice filled the night. Power without respect poisons the earth. Silence in the face of cruelty feeds darkness. The fire dimmed. Mzee Baraka bowed his head. Kato, he said, you are stripped of honor. You will leave Endamb at dawn. Kato wept openly now. And Amara, someone asked. All eyes turned to her. The ancestors spoke one final time. She will choose. Amara looked at the village, at the women, at the children, at the elders. At Kato. I choose healing, she said. Thunder rolled across the sky. Rain began to fall. Heavy cleansing. The fire hissed and died. And the land breathed again. The morning Amara returned to Endamb, the sky was the color of ash. No birds sang. No children played. The village that once buzzed with life stood quiet, as if waiting for judgment. Smoke rose weakly from cooking fires, and the drums that usually greeted the sun were silent. Amara walked alone down the familiar path. She wore no ornaments, no charms, only a simple cloth wrapped around her body. Yet with every step the earth felt her presence. The ancestors walked with her, unseen but heavy in the air. Villagers watched from behind doorways. Some bowed their heads, others pulled their children close. Fear and hope lived together in their eyes. At the center of the village, under the great baobab tree, the elders had gathered. Kato was there. He looked smaller than Amara remembered. His shoulders sagged, his eyes were hollow. The man who once ruled his house with anger now sat like a child awaiting punishment. Mzee Baraka struck his staff against the ground. You have returned, he said. I have, Amara replied. Mama Njeri studied her closely. You walk differently. Amara nodded, because I see differently. The wind stirred, leaves fell though it was not the season. Mzee Baraka cleared his throat. Since your departure the land has suffered, crops rot before harvest, children cry through the night, the ancestors are restless. Kato dropped to his knees. It is my fault, he said, his voice breaking. I broke respect, I broke my house. Gasps moved through the crowd. Never before had Kato spoken so softly. Amara looked at him for a long moment. The ancestors whispered. This is the moment, they said, the circle closes with truth. Amara stepped into the center. When I cooked that night, she said, her voice clear, I did not seek revenge, I sought to be seen. She turned slowly, facing the people. Silence almost destroyed me, but power without wisdom would have destroyed you. The air grew thick, the ground trembled lightly. Kato crawled forward. Punish me, he begged. Take my strength, take my name, just end this suffering. Amara closed her eyes. In her mind she saw Nyala, she saw her grandmother, she saw the long line of women who endured and disappeared. Then she opened her eyes. No, she said. The word fell like thunder. I will not punish you, she continued, because punishment alone teaches nothing. She knelt before Kato. You will live, she said, but you will live changed. The elders leaned forward. The ancestors demand balance, Mzee Baraka said. How will you restore it? Amara stood. Kato will stand before this village, she said, and speak the truth, not once, but every market day until his voice no longer trembles. Kato nodded quickly. I will. He will teach young boys respect, Amara continued, so they do not grow into men who use their hands as weapons. The women murmured, some wept openly. And I, Amara said softly, will not return as his wife. A shock moved through the crowd. I will walk my own path, she said, not as a spirit feared, not as a woman owned, but as a keeper of balance. The wind rose suddenly, dust swirled, the baobab tree groaned. From its roots, the ancestral voice rose one final time. Wisdom has spoken, it said, mercy has defeated pride. The sky cracked with thunder. Rain fell. Heavy, cleansing. People cried out in relief. Children laughed and ran into the open. The dry earth drank deeply. The river swelled. Life returned with the rain. Kato pressed his forehead to the ground. Thank you, he whispered. I see now. Amara placed her hand on his head briefly. Remember, she said, seeing is a daily choice. As the rain softened, Amara walked to the edge of the village. Nyala stood there, half shadow, half light. It is done, Nyala said. Amara nodded. The circle is closed. Nyala smiled. And now you belong to yourself. Amara turned back once, looking at Ndamb, at the women who stood taller now, at the men who looked thoughtful instead of proud. Then she walked forward toward the riverlands, where new paths waited. The drums began again, slow, steady, healing. And the ancestors rested.